this critical commentary, I will be analysing a scene at the beginning of the Ballad of Buster Scruggs in terms of how cinema photography, mise-en-scene and sound create meaning for the viewer using a semiotic approach. It is an anthology film with 6 separate tales set in the American West in the 1800s, presented as chapters in a book and directed by the Coen brothers Ethan and Joel in 2018. Death is a hilarious punchline into What Happens to You. This theme of futile death and cruelty of fate is explored in each chapter with a comedic spin on it, which is typical for a Coen brothers film. They are viewed to be true masters of both satire and dark comedy, which is evident in the scene I've chosen. This scene sets the tone for this stylistic film and follows the wanted comedic and singing character Buster Scruggs through the desert, arriving at a canteen in a western town. The scene begins with an aesthetically pleasing extreme long shot of a barren land, introducing the genre straight away. The colour palette has mostly earthy colours, browns, beiges, blacks, which often has connotations with no sign of life and can represent the struggle between life and death. We see similar colour palettes and horizon shots in older Hollywood westerns such as A Fistful of Dollars, Django, Rio Bravo, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Genre plays a fundamental role in setting the ideological framework of a film. It lulls an audience into a false sense of security. This means the audience already has expectations from the codes and conventions of the genre and recognise the themes and the type of film that they are about to watch. We expect death, violence, cowboys, horses, good guys and bad guys, as well as masculine and intimidating characters. However, the Coen brothers play on this expectation through character and sound, taking on a more stylistic approach. The amplitude of Buster's diegetic singing stays the same wherever we are in the scene. This, coupled with being positioned centrally, shows his importance to the story and dominance. His cheerful rhythm, along with a white dust trail and a white horse creating an asynchronous beat, forms a likeable, innocent, caricature persona that influences the viewer's opinion. The opening sequence is an extension of his character. Even the eccentric camera angle inside the guitar signals the quirkiness and exuberant playfulness of Buster. Typically, characters with comedic and over-the-top traits can be shown as foolish. Comparing Lyle from the spoof Blazing Saddles, we see he is also centrally placed with a clean attire and from a position of power, yet the singing is goofy, over the top, and he is visibly being mocked. This juxtaposition between his masculine pride and foolishness allows the audience comic relief as well as revealing his underlying vulnerabilities. Whilst Buster, on the other hand, is presented with a carefree nature, his vulnerabilities are not clear, and his pride is shown through his pristine white suit, which could be seen as something feminine. As Buster sings through his journey, his desperation for water is shown in an upbeat tempo, taking any urgency away from the situation, as well as leaving us with a positive, friendly, likeable character. A point-of-view shot from the mountains echoing water personifies them as if they were with Buster on this trek, removing any isolated images we may have. The pace slows down and Buster breaks the fourth wall, speaking directly to the audience, which is a classic Coen brother trait. This also links back to the genre, as we often see narrators in westerns. The Gunfighter offers a comedic take on this. However, the narration is non-diegetic rather than what we see in Buster Scruggs. Sound also has a subliminal role. This can be manipulated by filmmakers to produce a route to emotional involvement, which means in this case, having Buster diegetically narrate adds another layer to his characterization, which the audience can identify and produce an emotional connection with, as they are being spoken to directly. In this genre, we often see close-ups to create a sense of intimidation and power. It usually foreshadows violence. However, we don't feel a sense of danger with Buster at this point. Instead, we get a variety of different camera angles which change with the character's movements and could question his moral ambiguity. With every cut, Buster remains central whilst building a rapport, asserting his dominance and unconscious control of the viewer. The Coen brothers have concurrent themes of eccentric characters who display moral ambiguity. For an example, in The Big Lebowski, John Goodman's character is shown as extremely angry and irrational. However, as a whole, he is also protective of his friends and relied upon. A viewer that is familiar with the Coen brothers may already have preconceived ideas of Buster, especially when we learn that he is wanted. Another play on expectation is not having a typically good-looking and well-built wanted cowboy. Instead of being rugged, Buster is clean-shaven. He has a white stallion that whinnies to him in a cartoonish way, and he is still in a pristine white suit after trekking through the dusty West, which puts a question on his sexuality and or femininity. From an ideological perspective, this could question the viewer's perception on what a dominant male is and question what masculinity and femininity look like. Entering the canteen, he is a vision between Anton Chigurh, No Country for Old Men, and Bugs Bunny. As he confidently pats himself down, a white dust silhouette cloud is left behind, reinforcing his cartoon image. Including the sound effects, this angel-like appearance foreshadows his death. The use of white has connotations with an angel-like innocence and being infallible, so his death is showing the theme of futile death and his moral ambiguity. The two main objectives to film lighting are setting a mood, giving the film a look, or contributing to narrative detail such as character or motivation. This quote is especially relevant in the canteen as the use of light is prominent with small amounts coming through the bars, creating a prison image. The outlaws' faces are all in darkness, suggesting that they're immoral, dangerous, and intimidating. A beam of light enters with Buster dominating the room. This scene could be very tense, however the confidence and likability of the protagonist makes us suspect that he has control, as he again is still central on our screen. As Buster kills with precision in a graceful and witty way, glamorizing gun use, there are beams of light surrounding him adding to the innocent, heroic character, whereas the outlaws are still in the shadows. The bar gets lighter with each death and uses his narration and polite demeanor for comedic relief, as well as maintaining the audience friendship. We are allowed to think these people are funny in order to avoid thinking we are not just a subject to similar weaknesses and random misfortunes. This relates back to the main theme of relentless cruelty whilst dealing with fatal subject matters presented in a whimsical way. Our final image is back outside the canteen, where the building is shown half muddy red and half muddy white. This could hold a connotation for the criminals we've just seen, which were killed immorally, as well as highlighting once again Buster's own moral ambiguity. In conclusion, the opening scene in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs sets the tone for the other 5 stories in an artistic Western film. The Coen brothers provide unusual, powerful, quirky characters with moral ambiguity and build relationships with the audience through mise-en-scene, performance, cinematography, and sound in a nuanced way. They play with audiences' expectations and manipulate the viewer's perceptions of characters and morality through the use of comedy, sound, and lighting. The ideology of the scene is more so speculative and could question the viewer's interpretation of various themes, including femininity and masculinity, within the Western genre.
Adios, amigo.